People know you're in this thing. All right.
Oh my gosh, we're here and we're live. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I am in like Kurt Anderson's shoes. I feel so unworthy to be here without him. Welcome to Manufacturing E-commerce Success Monday Manufacturing Motivation. Did I get it right?
There we go. You got it right. You got it right. We're good.
Okay, awesome. It's so exciting.
It's all downhill from here.
It is all downhill from here. It's so exciting to be here. I got to tell you though, I'm missing Kurt. It's never the same without him. Kurt, wherever you are, we miss you. We wish you could be here with us. We're gonna have all the fun without you.
I don't if he's still in Florida, I don't, heck with him. We aren't even talking about him today because he's in nice weather. Everybody else is living with winter.
That's right. I know he got to miss that crazy cold spell this weekend. And I think he told me that it was like 85 or 87 in Miami.
Yeah, that's tough.
Man, you're
Lucky
right.
Dog. Lucky person.
Lucky.
Yes.
Well, I'm so excited to be here with Damon, co-founder of Exit. Oh, wrong way. Co-founder of Exit Your Way. And my amazing friend, Julie Basello with Basello Productions. So excited to have Julie here today with us today to talk all about podcasting, best practices, and how she got into podcasting and why podcasting is such a great way for businesses to build their brands and build their audience and build their community. So we're going to be talking all about that. Super exciting. But before we start talking about that, there's a really big game coming up this Sunday. Yeah,
there is. There is.
This is a big, especially Julie, because you're from Philly, right?
Well, I'm originally from New York, as you know, but I live in Philly country. So I live in Eagles country. So yes, big game this weekend. Everybody's excited. Go Phil. Yeah. Go Eagles. Go Phils. Listen to me, baseball.
Yeah.
Go Eagles.
Oh my gosh. And I got to say, so I'm in DC area and we hate the Eagles fans. Like, you guys are so mean. So
well, I'm not actually, I have to say, okay, this is my rule. Since I don't live where I'm from, and I've not lived where I'm from since I was in my early 20s, I always root for New York teams whenever they are in the big games. That's my rule, right? If there's a New York team in, I have to root for the New York team. However, there is no New York teams in this one. And I literally live 15 minutes across a bridge from Philadelphia. So, I mean, I'd have to be really like mean to not want Philadelphia to win. But I'm really not like, I wouldn't consider myself an Eagles fan or any football fan for that matter. Just, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And I bet like, what are the fans up to right now? What's going on?
They're probably crazy.
Oh, it's an incredible experience when you win the Super Bowl. It really is. And, we've only done it once in Seattle, but when we did the excitement afterwards.
Yeah. The energy.
And then the whole next season, the attention that your team has is completely different.
Yep.
And I'm not just talking in the stadium and from the announcers and all that kind of stuff, because there's more of that goes on. But even going to the games on the outside, there's more vendors set up. There's more excitement. It's just crazy what it does to your team for those couple of years. So it
really is
exciting
crazy
for Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia won in 2018, right? So they feel like they're due again, which, hey, I wish them luck. May the best team win. Yeah. Best team win.
Well, Damon, who are you rooting for?
Well, I like Philadelphia. I really don't care who wins. So I would just want the best team to win. But the Kansas City Chiefs hold a special place for me because that's the first place I ever saw an NFL football game with my family. Many years ago. I was like 12 or 13 when we went. And I still see it. I still see the big red and all this stuff. And I was sitting there with all my brothers and sisters and my mom and dad. And it was a ball.
Wow. So, what do you remember from that first game? What were you most surprised by?
How many people? I mean, I grew up in a town of like 250 people.
Oh, wow.
So we're in a stadium of 50,000 people or whatever,
Wow.
Arrowhead was at that time. And it's a different experience for us, that's for sure.
250 people. I grew up in Queens, New York. I can't even imagine growing up where there's 250 people.
Yes.
I think I had 250 people in my high school.
Yeah.
My gosh. Yeah. I grew up in Southern California and my graduating class was, I think, 700 people. So yeah, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Wow.
Big fish,
16.
little pond, Damon. Big fish, little pond. And now look at
16.
you.
Big fish, big pond.
Yeah. Just me.
Yeah. Well, may the
This is
best.
awesome though, because we're going to talk about podcasting today. Because I know Julie is a master at this. And it's gonna be
I don't
fun
know about that.
to
Let's not get ahead
understand
of
what's
ourselves.
going on in your world. Oh yeah, you are. Come
Yes,
on. Being too modest.
for sure.
It's something I'm very passionate about, and it's something that I think is a lot of fun, and it can be a lot of fun for anybody who decides to get into it. As
Mhm.
long as you kind of know some of the parameters, you can navigate the podcasting world pretty well, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that so Julie is producing my podcast, which just started last month, and it has been such a like she's made the whole process of starting this new, completely new medium for me that I'm not familiar with at all, just
Mhm.
completely navigating it. And she's made that whole process just very like seamless and low
Nice.
stress. And I will say, even she's even not only has she been an amazing producer and provided really great feedback on how to, increase the production value and make sure all that's in line, but she's been like a therapist.
Nice.
She's been an amazing therapist, because whenever you're navigating something new, like, and for companies out there who are thinking about podcasting, it can feel, some of my clients have navigated into the podcasting world for the first time, and it can feel a little overwhelming, doing something new like that when you're used to it. And so I think that's a huge part of it, is like a lot of times getting people to take that first leap of doing this new thing where you're, on camera, on audio and that. And she's just been a really, really great therapist. So who knew, Julie, you'd be a therapist / podcast producer extraordinaire. So
When you create content and you have to work with humans to do so, you have to navigate the human experience of whatever it is you're doing. So I'm a videographer, a photographer. I've been a photographer for many, many years and a videographer for almost a decade. And then the podcasting realm. All of those things involve a human that has to do something, either on camera or on a microphone or something like that. So my thought is make the humans comfortable so they perform their best. And that's where I think what you call therapy comes in. It's really just seeing what somebody's navigating and the struggles they're having and trying to make it easier for them. That's what it is. Because once it's easier for you and you feel better about it, you're going to sound better. And that's the whole idea. Sound better, look better, feel better. Like we did your headshots, Nichole. If I was very awkward and didn't kind of focus on some things about you that we talked about, the pictures would have felt awkward. And that's the idea. Same thing with podcasting. You just have people need to be comfortable with whatever it is that they're using of themselves and feel like they can put whatever it is about themselves that's authentic into what they're doing.
Yeah, you're right. So as a podcast producer / videographer / photographer, you really do have to provide a place where they can feel comfortable and safe and all of that. That totally shows. Very cool. So how did you get into podcasting? What was it that made you decide that, it sounds like you had already been doing videography and photography. So what made you want to take the leap into podcasting specifically? What was the catalyst?
It's funny. I had wanted to do it for a while at my day job because I'm a content manager, as you know, and I feel that, for manufacturers, it's a great way to impact a few things. SEO, because you have show notes that are immediately going to have an impact if you link them to your website back and forth. And also just, it's a cool thing. It's a cool factor. It's something that not everyone has. So you're providing value by giving people information that they're getting directly from your business. Now, it could be information directly about your business. It might be information that's just relevant to an industry, but you become an expert for those people when you have a voice. So I started exploring that and kind of doing some research and did some testing and figured, okay, well, I've done voiceovers for a while for videos. How hard could this be? So I started playing around. And at the same time I was researching and doing it for my day job, I was researching it and doing it for myself and my own business. So started playing around and discovered that when I spoke, people liked my voice. And I was like, that's interesting. Didn't really think about it. I've had the same voice since I was, a teenager and never really thought about, I used to get made fun of for my voice. I sounded like a
Really?
man. When I was a kid, kids would say I sounded like a man. Well, if you heard this voice coming out of a 10-year-old, what would you say?
Yeah, it is such an extraordinary, memorable voice.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. But it's also a deeper voice than most kids have. And it was different. So I kind of just didn't think of my voice as anything. And then at the same point that I was discovering that I could use my physical voice, I was also discovering the more ambiguous voice that we talk about, finding your voice, finding what it is that you need to say and what you need to convey to the world with what it is that you do and what's important to you. So at the same time, I found both my physical voice and my other voice too.
Well, that is so cool. I remember you were on a meeting with my team. It must have been like a couple months ago. We were talking about the podcast. And I remember one of the gals on the team, she like messaged me right away. It was the first time she had met you. And it was a video call. So she couldn't see you. She could only hear your voice.
Right.
And I'm on this call and she messages me on Slack right away. And she's like, oh my gosh, does Julie have a podcast? Because your voice is amazing.
It's so flattering, really flattering to hear
Yeah.
that. And I mean, I don't take compliments like that for granted ever, because it's such a new thing for me. And it took so long to get to this point that I'm just blown away by how many people are so positive. I think it's wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said too about like podcasting being really cool. I think more than that, like, especially, I know everybody's been talking about AI lately and chat GPT and the future of, artificial intelligence and what that's going to mean. And I just feel like these mediums like live streaming and podcasting, it is really like AI cannot replicate anything that you create in a podcast conversation that you're having, like we're having right now. This is like real-time thought leadership that no bot, nothing can replicate that. And that's like the magic that comes from these conversations is what we learn together when we're communicating, and
Definitely.
I just think, like, for brands to really understand that, like, that and like community building, like, the future of marketing is all in this community-led growth. And the way that you build a community is by building an audience. Well, how do you build an audience? You have to have engaged fans. Well, how do you do that? Well, you've got to be doing things like Damon's been doing for years now. You've been doing these events and podcasting. So
it's true. And
brands take notice. This is the key here.
He has nailed it in terms of what I think, in terms of, being able to do that. You've nailed it. No, an AI bot's not going to replicate your presence ever. I have a thing that I say about content creation in general when it comes to marketing or just any content creation. There's a few things that go into it. There's talent, there's skill, and then there's this little magic. I call it pixie dust when I talk about it, but there's this magic zhuzh that you put into things that I think a robot could mimic the skill, maybe even a little bit of the talent, by emulating people who do have talent and absorbing what it is they project to the world in terms of their creations. But I don't know if AI is ever going to get the zhuzh down, ever going to get the pixie dust down. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'll eat my words 20 years from now or 30 years from now. But I think, there's a little bit of magic and a little bit of something that a robot may not be able to replicate. And you nailed it too, about the community and just the human factor. We want to talk to humans. Could you imagine 3 robots talking to each other right now? I mean, it might be interesting. Who knows? But it wouldn't be as funny and engaged.
Well, yeah, because it would feel derivative and almost like too perfect, We need Damon up there getting really close to the camera.
Yeah. How'd you like that on Friday? Rosemary said, no, you shouldn't do that. And I do that half the time. It's hilarious.
We need like the little gaffes,
It's just a part of it. It's a part of it. I mean, I think you're exactly right, Julie, is that the AI, and we've played with it a lot in our company, and both in technical and text-based stuff and a lot of other things. And yes, if you want to do basic research, very nice for something like that. If you're trying to figure out some coding formula that you can't figure out, and if you can explain it, it'll figure it out pretty close, get you there, those kind of things. But the human factor, we're a long ways off from that yet. And I think, like you were saying too, Nichole, community building is where manufacturers can really leverage what no one else can do for them. And if you are talking with your community, if you're giving them good information, helping to highlight them when they're doing great things or they've got great ideas that they should share, there's nothing that really helps you do that more than a podcast or a live stream or something like that. Even if only 3 people see it, it's 3 more people saw it than yesterday.
Yeah.
You feel like you're talking to people you know. Like I've never met you in person, Damon, but I know you. Like right? I mean, when you think about it, that's how you connect. Nichole and I never would have connected if not for networking and community building.
Mm-hmm.
And what a loss that would have been in my life.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And it all started with this show on a Monday. Oh my goodness.
That's right. It did.
Like that is coming full circle. And you know what, guys? It was like exactly a year ago.
Wow.
Really?
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
And then there's Mr. Dan Bigger, of course, who connects the
Yep.
whole world to everyone.
Dan connects the world.
Love Dan.
Yeah.
It's always good for a connection or two. And he actually gets it. Like he tries to understand your world. He doesn't just like say, "Hi, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you." He wants to know what it is you do and how he can help. I love people like that. So
yeah.
Well, we love podcasting. It's the best. Let's be honest. Live streaming,
love it.
Podcasting, it's super fun. So, Julie, tell us, like, if there's a manufacturer out there who's like really wanting, like they've been doing a lot of other content creation, they've been doing video, blogging, and they're ready to kind of take the next step. What would you like? What are some best practices for anyone who's just navigating podcasting for the first time? Because I think there's a great, I just heard I listened to this really great podcast called Marketing Over Coffee. Really great.
Ooh,
One of
I'll
the
have to
things
check
they
it out.
mentioned is that the number of new podcasts has actually declined since COVID. And that like, I think it's like dropped from like 1 million to like 200,000 because there's like this, I think you've coined the term pod fade, right?
Pod
like,
fade, yes.
And I think so the consistency is a big deal, but I also think that that presents an opportunity, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity now for brands to step up and to create their own podcasts. There's certainly an audience for it in their, even just in their customers.
Yes.
That's their audience, So anyway, I feel like I'm digressing, but what would you say to someone who's just starting out, Julie, just wanting to get started with podcasting? What are like maybe like your top 5 things you'd recommend for someone, a brand who wants to just get started, a manufacturer specifically?
I think I would say before you do anything, what is it you want to say? So do you have something to say? I don't think a podcast should be one giant marketing campaign for your company. I don't think you should be selling, direct products all the time on a podcast. I don't think that's what the medium is for. I think it's a way to tie what you do to the real world or to real world stories that can support the why of what buyers find in your company. So, you know how everybody has a why of why they do what they do from a business standpoint. If a company's why connects to the stories they can tell in a podcast, and they can then connect potential customers to their why indirectly that way, I think that's valuable. I don't think doing one long sales pitch is necessarily a valuable exercise for a podcast. And if that's the plan, I would discourage someone from starting a podcast in that scenario. If you have a great way, though, to connect information, or you have a great idea of types of information that you want to convey that is related to your business or industry, but not directly about your business or industry, then I would say one of the first things you should do is figure out who's going to be the person or people, who's going to put their voice on it every week, or who's going to be doing the talking. Next, I would say if you're going to get someone to do the talking, you need to make sure they sound fabulous. Get a good mic. And it doesn't have to be an expensive mic to be a good mic. Nope. I think people have so many great things and ideas to say, and then they package them in the worst microphone ever. And I struggle listening to that sometimes. Maybe I'm I'm getting to be an audio snob now. How dare I? But
how's my mic, Julie? Is it okay? Is my quality okay? Do I need
fabulous?
Okay, good. Okay, good.
ASMR. Yes, it's fabulous. But there's a lot of people who don't have a lot of money. I understand that. You don't have to start. You don't have to make a big financial investment to start this. The microphone I started the first podcast I did with was $99. Cheap set of headphones. These aren't cheap, but the ones that I started with were inexpensive, and just the computer I had and a free trial on software that helped me record people in multiple locations. And that was it. And that's really all you need. And then you build from there. If you want people in the same room, you learn how to use a soundboard and multiple computers and set up a studio. But you don't have to do that. It can be a quiet room with, a sound blanket draped over the front of your desk while you're speaking to absorb some of that external noise, and a cardioid mic. That's it.
Yeah.
That's simple.
It's really not that complicated. And
No.
I've experienced, like, from my own experience, it really isn't. Literally, you just turn on the Zoom, plug your mic in, and you're good to go. Right.
And you need a good editor, which of course you have.
Thank goodness I have that. I also think it's important what you said in the beginning about it shouldn't, if you want to go into podcasting, it's not for sales. It's not for direct sales. You have to look at podcasting and events as a long-term. I love the term that Damon used in my podcasting, marketing is farming.
Yes.
It's all about building that long-term brand affinity. And you have to go into it saying, like, this is a long game. I'm doing this to build my brand, to build relationships, to network. And like farming, it's going to take time. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other thing with podcasting that people tend to with marketing in general, we feel like we have to meet this quota of how many things we're selling and what we're doing. And I don't think podcasting is appropriate for ever for selling, but also you have to have something to say. You can't just get on the mic and just riff every week, or once a month or whatever. I mean, you can partially, but there has to be some sort of purpose to it. If my own personal podcast that I am experiencing pod fade with right now, I am embarrassed to say, but the reason I'm experiencing pod fade with my own podcast is because I'm helping other people with theirs. And you know how it goes, right? Yeah. The shoemaker has holes in their shoe, kind of. Yeah. That's me right now. But
I've been there, lived that.
We've all been there. My aim was to tell reinvention stories. So I've reinvented myself in business so many times. Just things came up and I had to come up with a new plan. Life got in the way. I had to come up with a new plan. So I wanted to talk about stories that related to business and reinvention and to help people reinvent themselves on this, what I call reinvention adventure of life. That's what it is. We're always reinventing ourselves. So tell me your story and I'll tell you mine kind of podcast is what I did. Because I think listening to other people's reinvention stories helps you believe that you can reinvent yourself, that you can start over, that it's not the end of the world and things like that. So that's my aim, is to share those stories. Your aim, Nichole, is to share things in the business world, particularly marketing, right? That are all about mishaps and things that go wrong and mistakes that people made and how they navigated through that and, came out on the other side successful. So, I mean, everybody has to have a story. And I don't think starting a podcast without that story is a wise choice.
And I think too, you got to like the way Damon and Kurt do it and the way you do it is bringing in guests, right? Yes. Like that's a really great way because then you're telling their stories.
Yes.
And so I think if as a manufacturer starting out, it's a great opportunity for you to like interview your customers. Kurt and Damon, you're so great at that with the relationships you've built with the MEPs and bringing them on the show. And I think that's just a really natural way for you to love on your customers, to get them involved, to hear their stories. And then it's like, it helps you refine your product because you're bringing them on, you're learning about what their pains and challenges are. And so then you can figure out, okay, well, what can I do to help so it's like market research,
Yes,
so
it is actually, it really is.
Yeah. And then you can even with suppliers, other people in your industry and just to really to be a shining light in your industry. I mean, because it could be in manufacturing. I could be doing machine tool manufacturing companies that are making the equipment that makes the stuff we do. I can be working with material suppliers and other supply chain people, talk to them. How do you really work with you? There's just so many things that you can do to help your industry and your customers learn more about what they're doing. That just being that source of information, I think, with me in the faces of business, I really don't, I'll be honest, we don't talk about what we do very much at all. I talk about the other people on there because it's so important, I think, to be able to be a resource for business professionals to go to some place and be able to go, okay, I'm looking for marketing or how to do a podcast, or I'm thinking about this stuff. Let's listen to somebody talk about doing it. And maybe I'm going to learn something from it. I think for a manufacturer, if you were, say you're doing precision sheet metal fabrication, or you're doing carbon fiber fabrication, you could talk with suppliers about the different things that you're doing with carbon fiber and, show a few examples. Just think how much customers would learn from that. The designers,
absolutely.
There's just so much fun stuff.
So much.
It is. And you're exposing people to things, and what you're doing at the heart of all of it is you're giving those people on your podcast a voice. Not to bring it back around full circle, but that's what it's about. You're using your voice, and you're creating a voice for other people, or a forum for other people to use their voice, because they are getting to promote their business or their product or what they do too.
Yeah, so true. It's like being the go-giver. It's being the go-giver. And it really is like a great source of innovation for companies. Like, I think like there's a really great book I just read. I recommend it to everyone, called Belonging to the Brand. Just came out from Mark Schaefer. Such a great book. And he talks specifically about how like the traditional marketing metrics that companies usually rely on to measure success are going to be completely shifting. And like the future of marketing is all about like, how are your customers helping you innovate, right? So like through these conversations, it really can fuel this like innovation and how you can help serve them better, find better products for them. And ultimately, that is such a much more important metric than, how many leads you got in the door last month, So by the way, you guys, Kurt Anderson's chiming in. I got it.
Yeah.
We miss you.
There he is.
He's in
30,000 feet.
Oh my gosh.
He's in the air.
Cool. Yep. Kurt. Anyway.
So you mentioned a couple things, Julie, that would get people going, right? You want to get a microphone, you want to do that. What are some of the other things that, if I'm thinking about podcasting, that I may not consider unless I talk to someone like you?
The money factor. So podcasting, I think there's a perception in people who've never done it and don't have a lot of exposure to it that they're going to be able to monetize it immediately. And in some instances, they might be. Listen, if you have, I know, right? You're laughing. I'm trying not to. I'm going to keep a straight face for this one. But if you have a huge booming business, okay, you might be able to gain sponsors for your brand new podcast, and people might support that as part of their marketing effort to support your marketing effort. And, my community, we talked about, it might be part of that. But you don't do podcasting to make money any more than you would make an ad or a flyer to make money. Like your ad will go out. You may make money from some sort of advertising. You may not, but it still needs to be out there. Podcasting is, in my mind, the same way. Not to expect that quick. You're not going to get a quick return, but you are going to get a return. And like you said, back to farming, it's a long-term thing, and it will support and enhance your marketing strategy for your business in the long term by establishing yourself as, an expert at what you're doing, whatever that is. Whatever your premise is. Yeah.
And it is just the community that you build from it. I mean, like, as random as it might sound, this weekend, I got a text Friday night late. An old client got hacked by ransomware.
Ugh, that's awful.
I was freaking out, and rightly so. And through my live stream and podcasting and those, I was able to connect them with, I feel, one of the best people in the world to work on this.
Amazing.
Talked to them on Saturday, got them in touch with the right people on Sunday. And I mean, what kind of relationships can you build other ways that can help you help others do things like that? It's just, if you're in an industry and you really want to support the industry and the people around it, and, even your competitors, because, if we all rise together, this is why I think manufacturers really have an opportunity, because we can help each other build so much more by doing this.
I agree. I definitely think there's a golden opportunity there. Like I said, it's not for everyone, and it is a lot of work. Yes. It's, Nichole, you've dedicated a lot of time, and yours is a new endeavor, and you've already seen, I'm sure, how much time it takes. And
it's a machine. It
is a machine.
Because it's not just that's something else to think about. It's not just producing the podcast, it's the distribution.
Right.
How are you going to promote it? And that is like more than half the battle.
Yeah, it is. And your team is great, but not everyone has a big team behind them that can support it. And, so there's that to factor in. But I definitely think when you can create content that provides value for your customers, of any type, be it written, visual, or audio, I think you should take the time to create that content and provide that value. It's not just about selling in today's marketplace. It's about connecting with brands. People want to feel connected to the brands that they work with. And the only way to connect to a brand isn't personified. The brand consists of people. So you need to connect people to your brand with other people from your brand. And like you said, Damon, community building, it's the only way to do it, is to put yourself out there. And authenticity is always my mantra when it comes to any kind of content. And what better way to be authentic than a podcast? Minimal editing, just kind of making sure things are together and pieced together and tweaked. And you're not going to chop up a podcast and make it look like Hollywood. It is what it is,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I would be curious to hear too, like, what is your take on like doing an audio only podcast versus a video podcast? Like, how would you recommend one or the other to someone? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you and I had a conversation about that.
Technically, there is no video podcast, technically, because a podcast is an audio format. So when you create video along with a podcast, what you're doing is basically creating another way to promote your audio file. Because when you upload to your server for your whoever promotes your podcast and hosts your podcast, it's all audio. They're not taking your video and putting it up there. This is what I try to remind people. So the focus needs to be first and foremost on the audio quality, because it's an audio medium. Once you we lost Damon. Hi, Damon.
I'm back.
Once you see now, if he was
Julie, but whatever it was, he was like, "I'm done."
If we were just doing an audio live right now, he could have done that. We would not have known.
Yeah.
See, now you have no, like the video tells on you, it rats you out.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's good to have the video because promoting, you want to see the people that are speaking in many instances. Sometimes you may not want to after you see them. Just kidding.
Yeah. You can unsee some things, but
I'm just thinking of recording my podcast like in my PJs in the corner of my room, my house, my old apartment. But
I've got a party up top and just the yellow bottoms on the bottom, guys.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But I think that having the audio quality be there, and then the video is a nice to have. In my mind, when you're starting a podcast, it's not a need to have. Now, Nichole, you happen to be someone who has a team that works with you, a successful business. You've got layers behind you. You're not, one person in a marketing department in a small manufacturer trying to create more content and thinking, well, hey, I can do this, but now I've got to edit videos and scramble to get clips made up. And there's a whole bunch of things, like you said, that go into the back end. When you just deal with audio, you can perfect the audio and get it to the point where it is top-notch quality in terms of content and in terms of sound quality. And then once you get there, then you tackle video.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice. That's what you're doing for one of our clients. They have just a straight podcast, and it's a great for them because they are really busy, and we are, their subject matter experts are the ones on the show. We have an engineer on the show that we interview, and someone else on the team who wear a lot of hats. And so for them, it was the natural, it's a new medium for them. So it was a really natural step for them to let's just try audio. Let's just try podcasting. And then as they get more comfortable with the medium, then maybe they can get on camera, so it's a great option. Like for this team in particular, they're a little bit on the more introverted side. So it's like an easier barrier to overcome from that perspective. So.
It is much easier. And when you're just putting your voice out there and that you're going to edit your voice, listen to me, I'm editing myself as I'm speaking. If you're going to edit your voice, then it's a little bit easier. You don't feel as intimidated. I personally hate being on video, which is funny given what I do, but I'm not comfortable. I'm more comfortable behind the camera. So putting my voice out there, once I got over that barrier, was fairly easy for me. Putting me on video out there, I don't know if I could do that every single episode. I think that would bug me, but maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I would get better at it, and it wouldn't bother me as much.
I think you're great on camera. You're amazing.
Thank you.
You get used to it.
You do get used to it, I think.
Yeah.
But the audio part for me is the fun part. I love, creating that kind of tone where you can listen and learn something, and you feel like you're creating a voice that's in someone's head. That's how I feel.
Very cool. Well, what do you think is when you look ahead to podcasting in the future, where do you see this kind of medium? How do you see it evolving over time? Like what would you say is on the horizon for podcasting? What are like some,
It's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that, but my speculation would be, and it hasn't really changed that much since its inception.
Yeah.
The audio piece. Now, being
Yeah.
able to have tools that record video and things like that is more driven by social media than the actual podcast medium. If you were sticking solely to podcasts, you don't want video. You're just a podcast person. You're listening and you're multitasking. I can't multitask if I'm watching a video and listening.
Yeah.
Right. So
True.
podcasting is a multitasking medium, and it hasn't changed all that much since its inception. So I'm thinking maybe the tools will change. Maybe there'll be more tools that make it easier to navigate the podcasting world. That would be my guess, my semi-educated guess on the topic.
When speaking about tools, what tools do you recommend?
I definitely recommend Zencastr for recording multi-tracks in multiple locations. That has been a game changer for us because I don't have access to the soundboard.
Yeah.
I forgot the word soundboard. I don't have access to one of those. So, and I don't have a ton of experience with that. It's something I'm learning. I'm teaching myself, but I'm not there yet. So Zencastr is my soundboard, which it allows you to do a lot with very little. And their customer service has been excellent. They've been great. Another app I highly recommend is headliner.app. And I am not sponsored by any of these people, but any of these companies, by the way, but Headliner is a great way to make quick audiograms for your podcast. And then the last thing I would say, and it's a tool that I just came across that I love. It's called Otter.ai for transcripts. That's amazing. And transcripts, especially if you have a YouTube channel, like you take your podcast with a video and put it up on YouTube, having that transcript there is going to help your SEO enormously.
Yeah. We love Otter.ai. We use that for all of our clients when we do our SME interviews. It's just magic.
It's great. It is magic. And they're very accurate. I was shocked by how accurate.
It is. We've been using it for a few years, and it's even we use it now in corporate meetings. It takes notes for corporate meetings. So
can't get better than that.
Dave is recommending Riverside, which that's amazing.
Oh, cool. I've heard of Riverside.
Just recommended Riverside too. In terms of like having being able to do really good quality video on a, like a Zoom meeting, for example.
Yeah, that's great.
So thanks, Dave. You're the best. We can always count on Dave. He's always got such great insights.
Process guy. He's always got
Yes, it's so true. And I've since using Zencastr, I will second that it is just an awesome platform. It's really easy to use for someone who is like new. And I was trying to figure out how to use it. I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. This is easy. And I love how all the files are all like separate. You can download the video, audio, everything all separately. That's really nice.
That's very helpful from an editing standpoint. You have to have separate tracks. So
especially since our first episode that we did, the video file of Kurt got corrupted. Remember?
It happens.
So we had to make do. It happens, there's always something. So well, very cool. Well, Damon, what else do we got? Where should we go from here, my friend?
I just think that there are some basic things that people need to understand about podcasting. Like you said, Julie, it's, get a good mic, understand what you're going to talk about on your show, and then be patient.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
That's good. Why do you say be patient? Tell me more, Damon. Tell me more.
It's just because the chances of you coming out of the gate and having something with you're going to get thousands of downloads. I mean, okay, first of all, set your goals, right?
Yeah.
If I'm this precision sheet metal fabrication company in wherever, you just pick a town, and I want to be part for my community, how many downloads do you really need a week?
Yeah.
Do you need 5? Or does 5,000 really even make sense for you? Are you really even serving your community if you get 5,000 downloads?
So
true. Very true.
People think that I'm just going to give you an example. On LinkedIn, when I post the content that I really know that my target audience likes, I get about this many views. But I look at who's viewing. And I go, that's exactly who I want to be doing.
That's what
And
you
I think
need.
if you look at your podcast that way, and you understand who's listening to your podcast, if you can get that level and it's the right people, you're doing the right thing. And don't worry about 400,000 downloads, because you see people. Go ahead.
That's a good point, actually, because podcast analytics, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, what I saw as something in the future, or, something in the podcast industry that might be better or change, analytics needs to get better. Right now, you don't have access to the who. You have access to the where.
Yeah.
Where are the people that are listening? You don't have access to who they are. And that's something that when I've produced podcasts for people, for newer, smaller manufacturing professionals, they've always questioned, well, can I get people's email addresses? I'm like, no. You can't even see those people. You can see where those people are. If you want to target people in New York City, you can see where they're listening from, but you can't tell who they are.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, to me, a little bit of a flaw from a marketing standpoint. Now, if you're just doing a podcast, you don't care about that. You just want as big of an audience as you can. But if you're doing a podcast strategically for your business, you're right. You need to be speaking to the right people. It could be 10 of the right people instead of 500 of who cares, and you can't tell what that is.
Yeah.
I like that. And I love the whole, it's all about quality over quantity. So true.
It is always.
Yeah.
Well, it's always in marketing about quality over quantity. You're not throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. You're strategically picking out what you're going to pick up and throw and who you're going to throw it at.
The riches are in the niches.
Riches are in the niches.
True.
That's a good one.
Very true.
It's not ice cream you're selling.
No.
Especially in manufacturing. How many niches are there in manufacturing that you're just like,
God.
who knew there was that? Who knew?
8 million.
Who knew? Well, man, this has been such an awesome conversation. I have loved it. I just have to say, Julie, you are doing incredible work. I'm just so proud of the work you're doing on
Thank you.
My podcast and the clients that have been doing that you've produced podcasts for. The quality is just so top notch. And I'm just super excited to see where you're going to take this and excited to be on that journey with you and support you however that I possibly can, because I truly think, as a marketer, for my clients, investing in live events or podcasting really is where they need to be in order for them to really build an engaging audience and build that community. So I'm just super excited for you. I think it's great what you're doing. And I'm so pleased to be able to be here. This was all, by the way, this was all Kurt's idea. Okay.
Well, Kurt's amazing. We know this.
Him the credit.
Him and Damon are like the dynamic duo.
I mean, does he ever not think about other people? I swear. He was like, Nicole, I think you should come on and you should have Julie come on the show. And I'm like, Kurt, he's just so great. So anyway, thank you, Kurt.
Yeah. Thanks,
Kurt. And I got to say, I have not been doing a good job of showing everyone's comments. So I'm going to do that now. Dan says, something about, does patience exist?
Yeah, they're talking about patience. Yeah.
Not really. It's all about instant gratification.
Yeah.
And here's a great one. Julie Basello is a gem. I can second that 10 to 10. And Dan
Thanks,
Bitter,
Whitney.
she sure is. And there's
Dan.
Kurt Anderson. Thank you. And this is so sweet from Valerie Weber. Thank you for making my Monday better. Valerie.
Thanks, Val.
And aren't we so lucky to be part of this amazing community?
Definitely.
Guys, it's just so cool. So anyway, I think it's awesome. So Julie, you're awesome. So pleased to be your friend and compadre, and thank you for being my therapist and doing all that you do. And
awesome.
I don't know, Damon, how are we going to close this show out? I need some help.
I think it's been a great conversation, Nicole. You did wonderfully. Julie, thanks so much for what you shared today, because it really is going to help people get out and maybe consider podcasting, because I think it is a good way.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Nicole, take it away. Let's close this thing down.
Let's say go Eagles, go Chiefs. And podcasting is the way, and it's all about community, everyone. And thank you guys for all coming. We just love you so much.
Everyone.
Appreciate you guys. You guys are just the best community.
Once again.
So
such a great group.
Thank you. All right. Well, cool. Well, you guys have a good rest of the day. That's it for Monday. Manufacturing Motivation. All right.
Bye.